Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. Today I have a guest who comes highly recommended from a very reliable source here in Jacksonville. She has over a decade of experience in Northeast Florida as a real estate agent. Her drive, motivation, and problem-solving skills have made her a top producing agent. And in 2019, she opened her own brokerage. So let's welcome the most radiant broker owner of Radiant Realty, Tara Hubbard, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on today. I'm glad, Brittany referred me to you and put you on my radar screen, and then I start following people. There's a lot of great agents in Jacksonville. I don't know them all, so Brittany knows what I'm sort of looking for, and she said, hey, Tara would be a great guest for your show. So I'm glad you guys came over today. So I always like to kick off the show to get everyone a little familiar about you. Where are you from?
I am from Jacksonville. I was born and raised on the west side, Jones and Old Plank, Marietta, White House area.
Okay.
A lot of people don't really know where that's at, but that's where
I've heard
from.
White House. I've heard that before.
It's kind of like, it's probably not so country anymore, but it used to be country back in the day.
Where'd you go to high school?
I am a graduate of Ed White High School, class of 99.
Oh, okay. And then you went on to FSU.
I did. Well, I started off at FCCJ, and then I went to Florida State and
What'd you study there?
criminology. My intent was law school.
So intent was to be a lawyer, and how long did that intent? I will give you an example. I went to Citadel, and my intent was engineering, and that didn't even last the first semester. So, how long did your law degree idea go?
Well, it lasted long enough for me to come back to, straight out of college, I got a job selling water in North Carolina with a family that I nannied for. I was very lucky to have a whole other family when I was at college because I was their nanny. Mm-hmm. So after Charlotte, briefly, my grandma got sick. I came back home. I started teaching in Duval County, reconnected with my husband or ex-husband.
Ex-husband at the time, okay.
Got married and had kids. So that's where law school went. So it was
So you nannied through college?
I was a nanny.
While you were in Tallahassee?
Yes, 3 boys.
So you one of the, obviously things that the kids miss today, and I think it proves to, later on in life for you, your work ethic, that you actually were working through college to put yourself, or at least help, or did you totally put yourself through college, or do you have?
Oh, no.
But you subsidized, you created cash flow for the many other incidentals that a college student has to offset, but you had a work ethic and you were looking to do things while you were going to school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've mostly always worked 2 jobs my entire life.
Yeah. So you mentioned teaching in there. I did not see that on your LinkedIn.
I was 6 years in Duval County.
Is that right? So you just kind of were looking for a job. I'm like, whatever, I'll go teach, or what kind of led you into that?
I believe at the time there was a huge teaching shortage, and my then husband's aunt was a principal and desperately needed a kindergarten teacher, so I thought, why not? So I studied and I took the test. I visited the classroom, and teaching kindergarten's like being a little cheerleader because you have to always wear face, and
I don't know how they do it. That takes a lot of energy.
Girl was.
So you end up spending 6 years there, though.
I did 6 years with Duval County. After I had my second child, I did job share, which basically went part-time.
Okay.
And that's also when I got my real estate license because I needed to figure something else out.
So what started to give you the flavor for real estate?
I started investing in real estate. I bought a trailer in Georgia, rural Georgia, for $600. It was
the land too?
No, it was just a trailer.
Okay.
Garbage. I paid more to have it moved to a trailer park.
Right.
But I rented it out and it cash flowed, and then I bought another one from a different investor within the same trailer park.
Right.
And then, they cash flowed, so that helped, subsidize going part-time and teaching.
Who opened your eyes to that?
It was my husband at the time.
Your husband at the time, just something new. And, everyone thinks they have to do, well, I don't say everyone, that's a bad term to use. so many people think they have to go buy, I got to have the fancy house or to rent out or a condo or whatever, something that maybe, we would desire to live in. But there are people out there who are on a minimal income, Social Security, pension, whatever, or just, whatever, and trailer parks serve their purpose. I mean, right now, we really need to, in St. Johns County, being on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, we really need to open up some areas where people actually go in and put some trailers in there and people can pay reasonable rent. Because that is a huge part of our workforce right there. The fact that you noticed it, and there are obviously guys, if you listen to many podcasts, Bigger Pockets is one. He's a big investor in the whole parks themselves because of the affordable workforce housing. And you probably weren't thinking about that at the time, but today in our world right now, if I had some land and I could put 10 manufactured homes on them and rent them out, they would be great cash flow coming
Absolutely.
from that. Yeah, because there's huge demand for reasonable rent. You probably couldn't even get them and put them in the ground and turn the power on before people were banging on the door wanting to rent them right now.
Oh, we had the same tenant in one of them for the whole duration that we owned it.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. So are you, since you're on that subject of investment property, so did you take that here? You still have those? Are you still actively hunting or always have the eye out for another rental property?
Oh, my eye is always out for investment real estate. I no longer have the trailers in rural Georgia. Mm-hmm. We invested in Murray Hill, got out, in and out of Murray Hill over the last 15
A lot of flips
years.
going on in Murray Hill.
Flips. We had rentals there that we held on to. I'm a West Side girl. My heart's on the West Side. I feel safe there.
Right.
So I have a house in North Carolina that I bought in 2017, I believe, that is an Airbnb.
Cool.
So I saw the Airbnb purpose before it was like a real overflush of things right now.
Right. So you've dabbled in, and this is stuff I'm learning here. Tara and I did not meet. I mean, the first time I shook her hand was she walked in here, 20 minutes ago, and we sat down. So this is knowledge that I'm learning. But people out there watching right now, as I know, there's a lot of new agents or customers who are, Airbnb is big right now, looking for. People are always looking for those properties, in investment property opportunities. This is your resource. You have hands-on experience, whether it comes from a $600 manufactured home to a nice Airbnb in North Carolina and kind of everything in between.
Yeah, I've always been whatever it takes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you, you said your ex-husband kind of led you and was like, hey, getting into real estate and investing, and it's just, you've just slowly have built your portfolio over time.
Yes, I was literally 9 months pregnant, and he drugged me to Robert Kawasaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. And I left early.
It was a conference he was having?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I left. I didn't want to do the whole day the next day, so he actually took a realtor that we had purchased a rental property from. And then he came home and he told me that he had put on our charge card $13,000 for these classes. And I was like, what?
Oh, and wow, he dove in, brother.
Teacher. Yeah, he did, but thank God he did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Isn't it, so one of the podcasts that I listen to, they call it Loan Officer Freedom, but Carl White, taking massive action and not procrastinating over it, because in this case, you have a success story. You followed through with it, and you look back and you laugh at the $13,000. But at the time, you probably ready to kill.
Oh man, as a teacher and a guy in the military that wasn't even an officer then.
Right. $13,000, huge budget. And so had you even bought the manufactured home yet? Was this after Robert Kiyosaki?
Honestly, I think that we may have already had the.
All right, so he already had his mind moving in Kiyosaki
other directions and Murray Hill rental properties. So because of that jump, we then made several jumps in Murray Hill, and then Mike Barker, Tom Bryan, Ortega guys that we connected with. And an investor meeting, local investor group meeting, which I think are so important. There's lots of them that go on in Jacksonville, if that's your thing.
That's so interesting. It's amazing how it's surreal. So I had one of my loan officers this morning contact me, said he was invited to one of these investor meetings down in St. Augustine. I guess it's a regular group here in Jacksonville, but they've branched out down in St. Augustine, and he was invited in there, was just letting me know, and the fact that you're just mentioning that right now, it's just odd here.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, it's who you connect with, and
so, all right. So you're leading into one of the themes that I regularly have on, or that comes up in conversation with the top agents is who you hang out with. So you just mentioned that to you. So in your area, did you guys start going to these investment meetings, these groups that form, and these guys?
Honestly, when I got my real estate license, I just took off. I felt very lucky to work for Sean O'Neill. He was my broker,
right.
Local in town. And it was when internet leads took off. So if you just pounded the phones, you were going to sell real estate. Happen.
And it was Florida, so the people were moving here.
Yeah, and
right.
Realtors didn't have their own websites with, their own MLS.
Right.
Synced then, so I had somebody create that, and that's how Rhea, my old business partner, and I teamed up, because she was in property management and
right.
I could not keep up raising children and selling real estate with all the leads that I had, so we partnered up, and she left property management. And
Interesting. So we'll get into that here in a little bit. So you, I think it was around 2011. Right, is when you got your license. Am I correct with the dates there?
2008.
2008. No, I had why 2011 was in my mind. So 2008, you get your license. You joined Sean O'Neill's group. What are you? You just mentioned you're on the phones. So on the phones is a wide open or broad statement. What are you doing, and why do you think? Or were you? I mean, did you feel you were more successful than some of the others? Because you weren't the only one on the phone. What were some techniques that you used to be successful?
I feel like at the time, I was probably more successful than other realtors, because in 2008, the crash had happened.
Right.
A lot of realtors had gotten out of the market. A lot of realtors that were in the market were digging and had already experienced easy money.
Right.
And I was willing to do whatever it took if that meant that I was going to zip codes less desirable and, taking that chance, locking my kids in the car.
Did you start to specialize in the foreclosure short sale situation? What did you take an angle on that?
I did whatever it took. And when I tell you I did whatever it took, I did whatever it took.
Tell me what it took.
It was a
My audience wants to know
house
what it took. Yeah.
Or a $2 million house.
Right.
Like, I was working that lead until, it was dead. Like I'm working the lead. It didn't matter what you wanted to buy.
Because there's a lot of top agents, and I'm sure several of them off the top of your head that really started in that 2006, 7, 8 period, and jumped in. Matter of fact, the Collins, Walter Collins, he started in Valerie with Exit One Stop I had on last week, and they started in that time period, and it was working the short sales and willing to work it through, because it wasn't just sign the contract, okay, we're going to close in 30 days. You had to work with the banks and everybody else in between, and obviously appraisals coming in low or whatever was going on, and it took some extra work. And what I have found, there's a consistency of those who started during that period, and like you said, put their nose to the grindstone, if you want to call it that, and work through it, has just blossomed for them, as things just started to get better in 11, 12, and so forth.
Yeah, I think we think maybe a little more creatively and.
Mm-hmm. That's a great statement there. Yes, you had to get out of the box, because no one experienced this before, right? I mean, how often before that were anybody in like a foreclosure? That was like a unicorn,
mm-hmm.
And now you're having to deal with them on a large basis, and then dealing with the banks, which I think you'd probably agree with. Every bank seemed to handle them differently.
Ugh. You just made me like think of the.
You wanted to vomit
system.
on that?
That one specific bank that had the equator system to put your short sale stuff in.
We were fortunate enough when my wife we were here in it was Thanksgiving '08, and we came over and looked at houses. We found one. It was a foreclosure. And we just wanted to get lucky that the agent that was representing had the direct, I don't know whether, in that case there was a buddy, but they had the direct phone number to the, the bank person to make the decision. And we literally within 24 hours had our offer accepted. So that was a miracle, because having been in the business since 2005, and when someone would call, typically it'd say, "Oh yeah, we're making an offer on a short sale." We're like, okay, just want to let you know this could be tomorrow, or it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it may never happen, and that's depending on who you were working with.
You were very lucky, and you definitely had somebody looking
Yeah,
out
that
for
was
you.
totally, definitely fortunate there. So for our new agents out there struggling, inspire them a little bit here. What was the mindset that you had, besides your work ethic? Because the reason why I brought up working in college created the set that you are someone that's going to work through things. But what were some of the things that you had to get your mind around in coming in and knowing that you had to put forth the effort to bear the fruit in that period of 2008-9?
Yeah, I just knew that I never wanted to go back to teaching, even though I was still subbing a lot. And I wanted to be very present for my kids. They were young. I wanted to be the person that took them to school, that picked them up from school. So I just knew that whatever it took.
Were you a single mom at this point?
No,
still married.
He was in the military, so growing in the military, so going through lots.
Can be like it being a single mom.
Deployments.
With the deployments.
And stuff like that.
Right.
So sometimes, yes, like a single mom.
Right. So the taste of what I guess what I'm leading to is, were you motivated by what being in real estate and being successful in real estate was? Did you have a vision then of kind of like where you're at now in your business? Did you even fathom that in 2008?
No, I just knew that teaching was not for me anymore.
Right.
And I needed to be present for my kids, and all I had to make was a part-time teacher's salary.
Right.
So
if you sold the house,
just as good as where I was.
Sold the house a month,
more,
you were
and anything more, like, we're winning, right?
Right. Exactly. So when does this start to take off for you?
I would say
2013.
Start,
like you get the adrenaline rush. Now, I imagine you got excited when you had a contract then, but you start going, man, I could really do something with this.
Yeah, I'd flipped a couple of houses and, made decent money doing that, along with consistently selling real estate. But in 2013, shortly after Rhea and I partnered up and really got some systems in place, and it seemed to flow instead of being more of like waves, how it sometimes is. We also bought a quad in Riverside, Rhea and I.
Oh, there's another unicorn.
Yeah. And it was, again, I talk about people, angels, higher powers looking out for us. And that was that. So
I went off on my unicorn, because finding a multifamily home right now is a treasure. Right. I mean, imagine right now, no matter what the condition of it, it's a multifamily home. You got investors flying at it right now, and to be able to have a multifamily unit, because when you do listen to real estate podcasts and the big investors and stuff, they are talking about the number of doors. And you can have some single families, but you really want those multiple family units. And obviously, like Robert Kiyosaki now, he's just all into like apartments and buildings and so forth, where they have 50, 100, couple hundred doors or hundreds of doors. So it sounds like when you first started and got your real estate license, did you go around and talk to someone, or you just kind of walked in Sean O'Neill's office and say, I want to sell real estate? How did you lead? What led you to him?
We had purchased 2 homes through agents at that brokerage, so I knew how it was set up. Like, I knew it was an all online system, so I was familiar with it.
Right.
Sean's a people person. If you've ever met him, you love him. So
I only hear him on the Sean Hannity commercial.
Oh.
Or Sean Hannity's his commercial. Sean Hannity's talking about.
He's good people. Yeah. I wouldn't even say his name if he wasn't good people.
Yeah. I've been told I need to have him on the show, is what's good. So to touch back when you first started, you were fortunate to fall into a broker who's had great success, or obviously you clicked with. We mentioned pre-show. I said, "Are you recruiting at Radiant?" And you said, "Well, when people basically kind of come to you because your ideology, like the way you're doing things, they see you as someone who might mentor them or something." A new agent today, how important is it for them to really sit down and not be interviewed, but actually interview the brokers that they or potentially might be under?
Yeah,
I don't want to say work
the
for,
key.
be under.
Yeah. I think when people get their license, they think, oh, like I got to go interview everywhere. They need to remember that you're the one interviewing the broker. Right.
Because your phone today was funny. I was talking to Marissa Scott. She's on the show. She was actually, she said she had to call brokers to get on, and actually some of them turned her down. And then of course she became Rookie of the Year at Exit, like that in 2008, I think it was. And so it's funny today. I mean, as soon as you sign up for the class, they're already calling you. You already passed the test.
Your phone's blowing up. I don't even know how to get that list. So there you have it.
So, if you were, a friend of yours came to you today, and just say, "I'm thinking about getting into real estate," when it comes to selecting who they work with, or what broker they want to follow. What would you tell them?
I mean, I would think that they'd need to know what was important for them. Is it the education? Is it, hands-on? Is it availability? All of those things. What's important to you? If you like a big high school or a little high school.
That's a good analogy there, because when you say that, and I think a lot of people may skip over, but think about everybody's at a different stage in their life. If you're 25 years old and grew up here, or you're 25 years old and you didn't grow up here, you have a different need.
Yeah, what environment do you grow in?
Right. If you grew up here, you may already have a circle of influence to start working with. So, that broker. You don't need that part from the broker. If you are very new here, you may need the lead flow initially to get your feet wet and learn what's going on. If you're 40 years old and transitioning out of corporate America and you've lived here, is a totally different mindset. As my wife did a couple of years ago. She has a totally different mindset, because having worked before, knowing what that work ethic is, as we talked about you having, and then knowing how to tap into the people that know and like and trust you.
Yeah, and are you afraid? Is your personality? Are you the person that can go knock on doors? Can you hold open houses and talk to people? That way. Like, what's it going to take?
I was talking to a top broker here in the area, and he was talking about how he does this evaluation on each of the new agents that he allows to come into his brokerage. And one of the agents, I'll mention John Brooks. I'm going to mention you because Brittany's on Monday, so I'll mention you. John Brooks at Momentum, he does this test, and what the agent that he has in Gainesville found out, her strength is the online leads. She flourishes in that environment, and picking up the phone, and because as those leads come across, you better call right now.
Have to.
Yeah, otherwise there's 3 other people got them 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
It's the first one to grab. But she flourishes in that market. They focused on that, and it's changed her business.
Yeah, I've always said that to new agents, that getting leads, it's like fishing. If you want to catch a bunch of fish, you can't just go to this one pond. You've got to have several different ponds. Right. So figure out which ponds.
Well, so you grew up here in Jacksonville, and this is something with the young loan officers I'm trying to teach as well. What are some methods that I'm sure you still use them, but definitely, as you started to work through those leads, started getting your business, what do you do to keep your circle of influence, not the strangers out there, but the people like and love? What do you do to regularly touch them, remind them that, hey, I'm a realtor?
Yeah,
because they will forget.
Yeah, because there's thousands and thousands of us.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big relationship person. I think that I'm a whole vibe. My brokerage is a whole vibe, and once you connect with us, we kind of don't let you go. I mean, we have systems that we work.
Yeah, so is it regular dials, or you're sending them maybe
handwritten? A lot of handwritten letters. If like I notice something's
handwritten
going on
letters. That is
media.
something I'm going to add that to my theme. I've heard that so much, and I'm trying to push that here. But thank you for mentioning that. Is handwriting the card, just like I keep mentioning this. I can't remember his name, but the car salesman that wrote thank you cards to all his customers. That's that kind of concept, because today, face to face, obviously, building. You said you're a relationship person. Face to face is obviously the best way to build a relationship. Yeah, you can text, but snail mail is high above email. Email is the bottom of the barrel, and I think a lot of people have relied on these CRMs just to send. Yeah, they send out the auto email. Hey, it's 4th of July. Hey, it's Valentine's Day. But those really are not doing anything. If anything, anyone's putting unsubscribe, and then they're totally out of your CRM.
Completely.
Yeah, but the handwritten cards, how are you? Is it something that your whole team? You said there's 6 other agents in your office. Is that something you guys all buy into, or you've noticed that's something you've stayed with and consistently done over time?
There's 8 of us, but if there's some of us that do that, and that's part of our business,
just naturally.
And we encourage other people to do it. But that's the thing at Radiant. Like, you be radiant on your own, however you want to be radiant.
Right.
There's no pressure from me, but I think that.
But you highly encourage it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about somebody, stop and write it down. Tell them. I mean, in my work bag, which I don't have with me, it's almost like a little mailbox with like stamps, postcard stamps, note cards. So if something comes, you just get it out.
Right. Yeah, you might be sitting there waiting in line for whatever, or in the Starbucks drive-through. What says you can't pull out one of those cards and say, "Hey, Sally, appreciate seeing you today. Wish you the best." You pop your business card in there. You seal that envelope. You throw it in the mailbox next time you're around, or when you get home. I'm finding this to be a very old school. It's old because that's old, and I have sent agents snail mail before, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is so old school," but I'm hearing it consistently from top people that they are doing that and reaching out and touching someone with a personal thank you card or whatever.
Yes, I quit paying for leads years ago, and I solely rely on relationships for sales, and that's writing cards. I do pop buys also to keep in contact with my customers, which means that I go by
What's your favorite
house.
pop by gift? Because you generally bring something with you, don't you?
Well, yes, I have kids, so they put them together for me.
There you go.
Currently, bath bombs are on their way.
That bath bombs? Oh, my daughter would love a pop by.
Thank you for the referral.
She's all about her bath bombs.
Yeah.
She makes them.
Yeah.
So what, Tara? What do you to keep not top of mind, to keep yourself, because you have people that you are mentoring in your office that look up to you as the broker owner. What are things that you're doing to stay sharp, to continue to add value to them?
I think that it is just a matter of staying positive and encouraging, and even though like the market's been tough to get buyers under contract. Mm-hmm. Continually remind them their purpose and what they're doing. Caleb, I'm talking to you. He's a teacher also, a full-time realtor, just killing it. And I mean, he inspires me because he works so hard, and life is hard, and just reminding each other to stay human.
Well, when's he gonna jump in full time? When's he gonna?
Oh, I don't know. I think
sure
there's a little bit of a commitment where he's at.
Yeah. But I've had several. I mean, if I go back and look at, there's a lot of great real estate agents that were education
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to call it even Kristen Lunsford. She has a doctorate degree, I believe, in education with the Jack's Real Producers magazine. But there's a lot of great agents. Katie Benza, just thinking off the top of my head with the Welch team, she was a teacher before jumping into real estate.
Stephanie Riley.
Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of, but although I was an education major, I only put 1 year in, and I said, now I go back to sales. So, but the being empathetic, being able to approach people, being to carry on your presentation, and then there's a work ethic involved from the teaching standpoint. There's a lot of that back office or writing the handwritten cards and stuff. Someone would say, "Oh, that's what a kindergarten teacher would do," right? Well, yeah, and it works.
Yeah, connecting with the parents,
Right, you're dealing with the parents, and you're dealing with emotions. The kids are. I think every middle school teacher will tell you the emotions are flying everywhere, right? 7th, 8th graders, and you are dealing with that. It's the same thing in a real estate transaction, and you're dealing with the emotions and how you carry yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying steady. I think that's why Radiant was kind of created. I saw what I wanted, a family of agents.
Right.
That supported each other, that believed in hustling with heart, showing compassion, grace through a transaction. Because people go through some real stuff, and the reasoning why they're buying or selling a house, divorce,
right,
deaths, all these
well,
things.
In 2008, I'm sure the heartaches that you were dealing with from the sellers a lot of times, in the foreclosure situation was probably you jumped right into it right away in that situation.
Yeah, and I think currently that's kind of what we're.
Or if you're upside down in your house, that could devastate you as well as many people were in that time period. What did you take? So you started off with Sean O'Neill, Exit Realty. I know you did some time at Better Homes. What did you take from there to Radiant? What did you learn from those brokerages?
The vibe that I wanted to create with Radiant. People will be with you if they want to be with you. I wanted, freedom on things.
Mm-hmm. Give me. I know you're looking at your notes there. She brought notes, so that's good. I found you had a couple of people bring notes to the show, but give me. Not the, and they probably have changed it now because hopefully, if it wasn't working there, you saw something not working there. I would imagine at some of those brokerages, and some of them get so large that when you know something's not working. What did you? Yeah, let's dig into this. Something that you, like you said, you wanted to change the vibe you're taking. What was just you didn't see was happening, at least around you, that you said, hey, I want to create my own thing because I'm going to do it this way.
I don't even know what to say. So we started out at Exit when it was small, and it got really big really fast. I love Exit. I love Nancy. I love Ray. I love Sunny. I love my Exit people. I love my Better Homes and Gardens people. I have good relationships with all of them. So Radiant's not getting too big too fast. It's very referral based. If one of my agents call and say, hey, you should talk to this person, then I'm going to talk to this person. But I'm not calling off a list trying to recruit people, because the people that want to be with me will be with me. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, it's a whole vibe.
Well, you mentioned family. You mentioned that term before. So you wanted to work with people you like working with.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned, I know you mentioned something a minute ago about when I asked you about adding value and you coming in with that positive attitude. Well, if you're working with people you want to work with, you get up out of bed differently.
It's a different piece. Our whole slogan's peace, love, real estate. Believe in staying human. Sometimes humaning's hard.
Yes.
So it's important to stay human and, stay human through the real estate transactions as well.
Mm-hmm. But so creating a different atmosphere and like I said, if you're just bringing in people, which some of these brokerages do, that's their business model. Bless them for that. That's the way they want to run their business. But sometimes when you just have the door open, you don't know who's coming in.
Yeah, I want to know that my agents are working with their heart. Mm-hmm. and not just pushing paper, plug and play, doing it for the money.
Right. Well, that's because that's short-lived.
Yeah.
And I think people, I don't want to say discredit or don't give enough emphasis on the fact that when people are moving in and out of your life, it is stressful. So if you're a family relationship person that you are, that's probably why Britt, because that's the way she is, at Landmark. Brittany's, to me, that's the way she has that kumbaya attitude. Yes. She's always positive and so forth. So obviously she likes you. So you guys have probably have similar personalities from that standpoint. So when you bring people into your circle, and then when people leave or someone comes in and they're not willing to put forth the effort, you're like, oh man, this person has so much potential. It pulls so much energy out of you. And then when they leave, you have that moment where you're like, oh man, I feel, we just wish that person just, stuck with it, did a little more. They could be really successful at this business. So I'm envisioning Radiant, the fact that you are so selective, or really you want people to come there because they want to be there. You don't have that influx of people coming in and out of your life, taking your energy with you.
Right, them, yeah.
Did I describe that well enough?
I enjoy people that, have more deposits than withdrawals.
Yes, there you go. I like that. Yeah. You are reading some personal development books.
Or a lot of therapy.
Yes, that's true too. So let's talk about some mentors you have. You've mentioned a few. Who do you think if you looked at your whole real estate career the last, we're in 14 years, right? Who do you think's been the number one influence? Even if it's Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know. Whether it's someone you follow or just another great agent, or was it Sean? Who do you think, if you were just to put somebody at the top of that list, who do you think would be your most influential in your career?
His name is Robert Jackson. He's one of my best friends. He is a hard money lender for a few people. Mm-hmm. He owned Assista Cells back in the day. I don't know if you remember those, but he's a broker.
Yes, I remember seeing the signs, yeah.
Yeah, he is definitely a good guide for big decisions in real estate.
Right. Is he someone you confide in or almost consider a coach?
Absolutely. He
talking
believes
to regularly?
In me. He inspires me. He pushes me, motivates me.
How important do you think, in talking to some young real, because I know, I will tell you, anyone listening right now, and if you listen to my podcast, every one of them, of the top agents, have had a coach or mentor or both. Some of them had multiple coaches. Some of them have had coaches. Some of them still have coaches. Whether you pay them or not, because I imagine this gentleman, Mr. Jackson, is more of a friend coach to you.
Right.
But how important it is to have someone that you have that bond and trust and kicks you in the butt sometimes, like you said.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to have some sort of accountability partner.
Right. Marketing. This is probably but whether it's a loan officer or a realtor, this is really what we do. I mean, because we got to make the phone ring. After the phone rings and you get the contract, yes, you're going to follow through with it, but most of our time is done to get the phone to ring, to get that person to call. In 2008, you were doing leads. How did that migration in the last 15 years to what you're doing now? You mentioned your relationship building, but what are some of the tools you're using today that you weren't using even just 10 years ago?
Oh, customer appreciation parties. We do them twice a year, which for the whole brokerage, everybody invites all their past customers out. We do customer appreciation parties to just...
We just do a cookout, or what kind of things do you do?
Well, during the pandemic, we had the icy truck at the Riverside Memorial Park, so it was more like pop in, but then had cornhole going on, so it was outside events. We've done Cinco de Mayo parties in Nocatee at the park there.
What do you think is the key to getting those past clients to show up to that? Or do you think it's just the fact that you announce that you're having it and you're sending that out to everybody is good? People show up, bonus. But I mean, to really get a crowd, an agent's thinking about doing that or joining up with some other agents, because obviously it's, that way you get more synergy around it, right? You get more people to show up. What are some key things you think to get those past clients to show up to that?
I think having it at a cool place. We also did one at Selfie Photography when they opened in Avondale. It was a local new business. My sister's, but
hey, that works.
We promoted her business. And
I'm sure she's referred you some people over time.
Yeah, absolutely. She's awesome. She's the best.
Right.
But people like their picture taken, so that was a good turnout.
One of the ones I saw that was back at Christmas time, Kelly Bello does, and I got to steal it this year. I'm sorry, Kelly. I got to figure out how to steal it. She had it set up, and she had Santa Claus. And had them all come in and take their family photos.
Yes.
At the time, because everyone's always trying to get their Christmas cards ready. Obviously, so that's really like an October time frame thing to get their do the family shot that gets send the Christmas cards out the next month.
Yeah, or just family photos if you're just going to do it in October.
What do you find when you bring them in? Because these are people you're trying to touch throughout the year anyway. So when you have that, what as the agents in your group, are you going in with some sort of strategy? I would assume to try to touch everybody that shows up. What do you do to prepare yourself to make that event successful?
Well, we call them,
Personally,
hey,
invite them.
you got the mailer,
right?
But here's the phone call. See you there.
That was a tip that I got the other day. Well, actually, I probably wouldn't say the other day, probably a couple months ago, was when you have an event like that, you call them or send them some sort of message above and beyond your actual mailer. Oh, hey, look forward to seeing you at the event.
Yeah.
And that puts that psychological thing that, oh, my God, Tara is looking forward to see me. I better be there.
And there's a Facebook. You can create a Facebook group, and then it sends the automatic touches.
Do you have a Facebook group for your past clients?
I do.
You do? So what are
I got that tip from Melissa Ricks.
I do. So what are some of the things that you do, Wanda? You are just like Melissa has her kind of routine that her team is consistently doing something there. What do you guys like to? What do you do in your private Facebook group?
Just pop in with positive messages and things.
Whether it's real estate related or not.
Most of the time, it's not.
Just to keep reminding them, and then you're popping up, and they're seeing Tara. Oh yeah, Tara, that's right. She's the real estate agent.
Yeah, keep an eye out for your bath bombs.
Right. What was it ultimately? Because I mean, we all, and I'm sure there's a lot of agents that if they're listening to this, are at a brokerage. They feel they got to be under the Keller Williams or the Exits or any of the Coldwell Banker, all the national franchises. But you decide to break away from the Better Homes and Gardens and the Exits and just have your own. I guess the terminology boutique brokerage is the terminology, right? What made you just decide that, hey, I don't need that national logo. I can do this myself.
Yeah, I believe every agent out there, you are selling yourself. You're not selling the Exit, the Better Homes. You're selling yourself. So if you're you and you're genuinely you and people see that, then that's what matters and that's what's going to get you business. I don't think somebody's going to hire me based on what brokerage I work at.
Right.
They're going to hire me because they believe I can get the job done.
I think the old days, I always remember seeing like Century 21, right? The Century 21 ads where they were wearing the gold jacket. And that was the record. They were Century 21. I don't know if there was another real estate company that I could think of. At least I grew up in the Northeast that I can think of that as a young person growing up saw the ads, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, saw ads from a real estate. They were wanting to brand that national thing, and that you were going to get the same sort of service. But really today, it's like you said, it's relationships, and they're doing it because you're a competent real estate agent.
Yeah,
and
be you.
Yeah, someone knows, likes, and trusts you, and referred you to them that's where your bread and butter comes from today. Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
I'm like, you just gotta be you.
The shaking the head doesn't get caught on the audio.
Oh. I'm like, I got it.
Facebook Live gets it though. That's all right. So some of the commonalities that I've gotten on the show, and I lead into this every show because I've noticed after the first like 50 some episodes, I was hearing similar things from top agents. How important, whether you're a first year agent, and maybe you don't do it now, 15 years in, as much of your day is taken up with it, but as a new agent, to get as much education about the industry and what you're doing. How important is education in your overall success now 15 years into the business?
I think that the majority of your education, and maybe my belief differs from other people, but I think that you learn by doing. Mm-hmm. So like new agents, you can read all the books in the world, all the how-to guides, but unless you're out there doing it, you're not going to learn it. Every transaction is different. It always has been. There's different hurdles within each deal that you have to jump through.
Right.
And you're not going to learn how to do that unless you're doing it.
Well, you definitely have to cause the action and the experience. But would you agree some of your, the Sean O'Neills and so forth, their experience was poured a little bit into you, made things a little bit easier because there were so many. 2008, 2009, you jump into a market and they're talking about foreclosures and short sales, and I guarantee, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of agents rolled out.
Yeah.
Experienced agents rolled out, said, I'm done with real estate, and they had already done transactions. You had never done a transaction, and you're diving into this unicorn time of this overflow of what was going on in the marketplace. But to have a Sean O'Neill, and I'm sure there was others, to run your situation across with, because these situations were new, he had enough notches in his belt to be able to help you get through some of that crazy time that really neither of you experienced, but he had real estate experience. You were coming in new, but to be around people like that and pull their knowledge.
Yes, I think that goes into like keeping your circle.
Right.
Growing your circle.
Hanging out with other successful real estate agents, interacting with them, or in this case, Mr. Jackson, he's in the real estate industry, just a different part in the lending and investing side. So hanging out with people like that. If you were to go back 15 years now, I'm sure you've tried some things and failed some things, but there's something you do today that we would say you're consistent in, and that whether each week, each month, each day, you're like, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. What would you say, though, one thing is that people would say Tara is consistent at?
Well, I think that in the beginning of real estate, I learned to look at the hot sheet every day. That way I was familiar with prices and zip codes that were near each other, learning all of Jacksonville, places I'd never been, and I have consistently looked at the hot sheet every day, and I think that has helped me in lots of conversations where you get caught up at the ballpark and what's going on and blah blah blah. Did you see this sell? Mm-hmm. Well, then I've looked at the hot sheet so I can flow.
All right, so if I can translate this from my side or into maybe a new agent, from what I heard you just say is really knowing your area.
And what's going
knowing
on.
The different subdivisions, what's going on in them, and what's the price point, obviously things like the amenities and so forth. So when you are talking to that potential client on there, you sound like, I'm thinking of some homes right now or some neighborhoods that you would that fit what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Let me see what's hot, what's going on, if there's any homes for sale in those areas.
Right.
Is that what you're getting?
Right.
So educating yourself in whether obviously new construction, a lot of our inventory is coming from the builders, so knowing what their subdivisions are doing. But obviously you came from the west side, knowing what the beach is doing, knowing what's going down in St. Johns County, and the next explosion, which I think has already started, Nassau County.
I was about to say.
Yeah. and Amelia, because you're going to have those different clients with different needs. Do they have kids, not kids? How old are the kids? May also help you guide and fit them into the right place, which keeps you on top of the market. So that's your educational piece, is educating yourself on or staying consistent on knowing
what's going
being
for
in the
what
know.
Where, yeah.
Yeah, being in the know. Okay. You get a new agent in front of you, or how many? Do you have any real raw green at Radiant?
I have one.
One. What's 3 things of advice that you tell them that they need to do?
She needs to do open houses. She needs to consistently post on social media, and she needs to make phone calls to her sphere.
Those are the 3 things. I like that. So we already know the phone calls. Obviously, going out, to me, as you would say, being a listing agent, or a lot of the listing agents are good at getting the listings, and they don't even like to sit their own open house. They'll let new agents go sit them, and they're traps, because people are not traps like physically trap someone, but they're like setting out. When I grew up on Cape Cod, we had me and my dad, we had lobster traps. I had my student permit. He had the family permit. We had 35 lobster traps. So you set out the lobster traps, and they got their little buoys, and you go out every week and you go and check them to see going. It's the same thing to me. A listing is people are coming into that house, and hopefully she's going to find somebody that's not represented.
And can connect.
And practice the conversations that they need to practice. So attending or finding the open houses on the weekends, when you get, I assume you probably don't work as much on the weekends as you probably did 10 years ago. Not as much.
Maybe not as much, but I still am a weekend warrior.
Yeah. Because that is, it's real estate, so that's a really big part of our business. So, all right. We're going to finish up here because we're coming up on the hour. Let me ask you, because you took a lot of notes. You have a lot of notes. You didn't take a lot of notes. You have a lot of notes. And is there something on there you want to tell us? What's something you had on your notes that you wanted to share with us?
I don't think that there's anything on there that I didn't mention.
Do you want me to read your notes and see if there's anything on here?
No, I think that it's important for any realtor to know when to say no, just because somebody wants you to list their house. They could be completely unrealistic. Don't waste your time and energy.
I will tell a story about that, because I literally had a referral agent of mine call me yesterday, and he he fired his buyer, 25 offers.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
And he literally had twice where he put in the offer was accepted, and the guy turned around and said, "Nah, I don't want to buy it."
Yeah.
And that's a lot of emotional energy, as long as a lot of physical energy. If you sitting there, you got to go in there, present that contract and everything, and then submit it over, and then you're waiting for approval. Your work and efforts put in there is some emotion. That's draining.
It is.
And literally at 25, he said, and this has been going on for a couple of months now, and he said, I'm done. You got to find someone else to represent you.
Yeah, so good for him. He learned to say no, and that is so important.
Yes. Anything else?
Maybe just being present and aware of
good one.
Just life rules in general.
Showing up is a term I like to use. You have to show up. If the newer you are, the more you have to show up and get out there and let people know what you're doing. Whether it's at your kid's ball game or whatever, everyone on that team should know what you do, right? Show up. What else?
Being in the moment, being aware that you're in the moment.
Give me an example on that one. I've heard that before, but what does it mean to you, I guess? I
mean, not just in general, real estate too, but sometimes when people find the house, oh, this is it. This is the moment where they've realized, this is where we're going to live. This is where we're going to have kids and raise our family. I get to be part of that moment. How exciting is that? Be
excited with because you can do this enough times where it just becomes a thing for you. And you have to realize that each and every one of those buyers,
you're part of their story.
Yeah, you're part of. They may only do this, once or twice or a handful of times in their entire life. You're hopefully doing that a month, and you've got to be as excited for them as they are.
Yeah.
To build that relationship, and which takes a little bit. and I imagine over the years, some of your customers have become good friends of yours.
Oh, absolutely, like family. So.
Yeah, you've gone out to dinner or whatever. The kids hang out and
vacations.
I mean, how I guess if you were to look at yourself and look at some other agents, because I could think of some off the top of my head. How being that type of person, I mean, has had to accelerate your career as well.
I'm just me.
Yeah,
so
which is natural for you. Yeah, it's natural for you to do that. Yeah, but to invite somebody out to dinner occasionally. Maybe you're not the most social. I guess that's kind of one of the areas where I may be. I could get my wife says, I don't know. They don't know what you're going to say. I'm like, I generally don't say anything.
Just be brave.
I talk more on my podcast than a lot of. I generally don't say anything because I find just listen to how to win friends and influence people. And listen to them. They want to talk and they want to ask questions. Sometimes I'm probably a little shorter than I should be. I probably I found myself now after doing the podcast for a year that I have to go into podcast mode sometimes to bring it out in the conversation. But yeah, all right. Anything else?
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
That was really good stuff.
My messages are out there.
Because I didn't know you personally before, but those things that you just mentioned there are important steps in thinking about your real estate career. And if you maybe hit a lid, John Maxwell, you hit a lid. Why am I not growing? Well, maybe you need to have the past client parties. Maybe have you actually had relationships with your. I know some agents that are so cheap they won't even take their customers out to lunch.
Oh no!
I'm like, dude, they just bought a $600,000 home. You're making thousands of dollars. You can't buy lunch for them or something. I mean, I don't understand that, but some people think that way. I don't know. So these are my 2-minute warning questions. Is it more important who you know or what you know, and why?
I think it's who you know. I'm a who you know. That's what gets you around in the world.
You're a relationship person.
Yeah.
We talked about your mentor or mentors you've had, right from Sean O'Neill to Mr. Jackson and so forth over time. And those relationships have helped you grow. Would you agree?
It's who you know, then you grow.
I like that. What's on your travel bucket list?
Oh, gosh, so many.
I love to travel. Is she taking your daughter over here? You taking to some parks this summer? Disney World? Is that on the travel list?
We stay in North Carolina for a good chunk of the summer and
cool.
adventure from our homestead there.
Whereabouts in North Carolina?
Franklin, North Carolina. Western North Carolina.
Over towards...
Highlands.
Because we go to Chimney Rock area, back
west
cave,
of there.
West, even further west. Okay.
Literally like the pocket of Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina.
Right. Where you can step in like all the states at the same time.
But that's not bucket list. Bucket list, I would probably say right now is like before the end of the year, Arizona.
Arizona.
Never been?
I've never been there. Oh, that's right. Have I been? No, I've been to New Mexico. I've been to New Mexico and was there when they had the balloon fest going on. That's a whole nother story. All right. I'm a loan officer. You're a real estate agent. What is the number one thing that you require of your referral partners, whether it's a loan officer or your home inspectors, anyone else that's in your portfolio when you're working on closing a home? Communication.
If I call you from my cell phone to your cell phone at 9 o'clock at night, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. Answer the phone.
I have said that so many times, and people say, well, number one, they don't answer the phone. It's like, trust me, if they're calling you at 9 o'clock, it's not to shoot the ball.
Yeah,
they have a situation, and we're talking about thousands of dollars for everyone involved in it, doing whatever they're doing. Yeah, take that call or shoot the text back, say, I often get, I'm putting the kid to sleep, which I think some people exaggerate that sometimes, but you have to respond, in one way, like, hey, I'll call you back in 10, something. Yeah. Because you're not calling to shoot the bull past the time. We'll do that tomorrow morning at coffee. So Tara, I appreciate you coming on today.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to get to know you and Radiant Realty and hopefully our audience here. And so this podcast will go out, let's see, today is Wednesday. This will go out next Tuesday on Apple. Obviously, Facebook Live is out there already, and I'll obviously share the video with you as well, so you have it in your archives and can do things with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.